Have you ever had someone vouch for you? Maybe you messed up, big time. But instead of throwing you under the bus, someone stepped in and said, I know them. I trust them. Give them another chance. That feeling, that mix of relief and gratitude, is what the book of Philemon is all about. But here's the twist. What if I told you that this is exactly what Jesus does for us? Today, we're diving into one of the shortest books in the Bible, just 25 verses long, but packed with one of the most profound messages of grace, reconciliation, and the power of standing in the gap for someone. Let's explore how Paul vouched for Onesimus and how God does the same for you. Philemon is a personal letter from the Apostle Paul, written while he was in prison, most likely in Rome around 60 to 62 AD. He writes to Philemon, a Christian leader in Colossae, about a runaway slave named Onesimus. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Onesimus wasn't just any runaway. He had wronged Philemon in some way, possibly even stolen from him. And under Roman law, a runaway slave could face severe punishment, even death. But in an unexpected turn of events, Onesimus meets Paul, becomes a Christian, and now Paul is sending him back. Now let's be honest. If you were Onesimus, this is where you might say, Paul, do we really have to do this? Maybe we just relocate, change my name, grow a beard? But no, Paul sends him back. And here's the beautiful part. He doesn't send him back alone. He sends him with a letter that will change everything. Here's the heart of the letter. So, if you consider me a partner, welcome him as you would welcome me. If he has done you any wrong or owes you anything, charge it to me. Philemon 1:17 to 18. Did you catch that? Charge it to me. Paul is stepping in, standing in the gap, and saying, whatever he owes you, put it on my account. That's grace in action. That's intercession. That's Jesus. Because isn't this exactly what Christ does for us? When we've run away, when we've fallen short, when we owe a debt we can't possibly repay, Jesus steps in and says, charge it to me. To really grasp the weight of this, we need to understand Roman culture. In Philemon's world, slavery wasn't like what we think of today. It wasn't race-based, but was instead an economic and social system. Some slaves held important positions, while others suffered harsh conditions. But no matter the situation, running away was a serious offense. Onesimus didn't just break Roman law, he betrayed his master's trust. And yet, Paul doesn't just ask for Onesimus to be forgiven. He asks for him to be embraced as a brother. That's radical. That's countercultural. That's the gospel. And that's exactly what God does with us. He doesn't just pardon us, he welcomes us as family. Think about your own life. Have you ever messed up so badly that you felt like you couldn't make it right? Like maybe it was easier to run than to face the consequences. Maybe you've even felt unworthy, like you don't deserve a second chance. But here's the truth. Jesus is standing before the Father, vouching for you. Just like Paul said, charge it to me. Jesus has already taken your debt upon himself at the cross. So when you feel unworthy, when you feel like you can't go back, remember, you're not walking into that moment alone. You have an advocate. You have a Savior who intercedes for you. And just like Philemon had a choice to forgive, to embrace, to restore, we have that choice too. Who in your life needs a second chance? Who needs you to stand in the gap and say, I see something more in them? Because when we reflect the grace of God, we don't just change someone's story. We mirror the very heart of Christ. So, let me ask you again. Have you ever had someone vouch for you? Maybe today is the day you realize that God has already done that for you. And maybe today is the day you choose to do that for someone else. This is the message of Philemon, a letter about an escaped slave that turns into a portrait of the gospel, a reminder that grace is not just received, it is extended. And when we choose grace, we reflect the one who first gave it to us. May you rest in that truth today. May you abide in that refuge.